Traveler, I advise caution. A corruption has gripped Stonelore Grove, turning the wildlife aggressive and spreading an impurity unlike anything our circle has ever seen. Nature itself has fallen out of balance. That is what I hope to determine. The Archdruid sent me to investigate, but it was all I could do to avoid the once docile creatures of the grove. I found a few pockets of corruption that must be cleansed, but I need another druid to assist me. Really, I just need another set of hands. Here, let me mark your map. I'll cast the cleansing spell, then you burn out the impurity. That will temporarily restore the balance while we search for the source. The circle will compensate you, of course. Let's find a few concentrated areas of corruption. My spells will cleanse the impurities, then you burn them. Hopefully we can determine the source of the corruption before this malady spreads to the rest of the island. Just keep your guard up. It wasn't always. It used to be one of the safest locations on the island. In fact, my ancestors deemed the grove sacred when they first arrived. Now the corrupted wildlife attacks for no reason, and some of my fellow druids have been afflicted. Not much, unfortunately. I noticed its effects a short time ago. Usually docile creatures turning aggressive, a strange blight spreading through the plants and trees. I brought my concerns to the Archdruid, who initially thought I was overreacting. I'm not sure anyone has ever convinced Archdruid Agathe of anything. But she couldn't deny that something strange was happening in the grove. She ordered me to look into it and bring my findings back to the Circle Elders. Nothing. I haven't gone back yet. Until I determine if the corruption can be cleansed and find the source, I don't actually have anything new to report. Well, except that now the corruption has spread to some of my fellow druids. Just that. They have become as hostile as the rest of the afflicted wildlife. We may have to deal with any corrupted druids we meet. But with your help and the blessing of the true way, we'll soon have a solution to present to the Circle Elders. I suppose you would call it our doctrine, our religion. The true way represents a life guided by natural principles and the value and willfulness of nature. All of nature comes from Ifra, and the druids are the arbiters of Ifra's will. Have you never heard of Ifra where you come from? The storyteller? The god of song and forest? The spirit of the now? Ifra formed the frame upon which nature was woven. He gave rise to the rules of life on Nirn. His way is the true way. I am a druid of the Stonelore Circle. I am a teacher, a healer, a counselor, as well as a steward of the natural world. I hear the voice of Ifra and his earthbones, and I do my best to be his advocate. Natural principles guide my every action. The corruption spreads quickly. Burn the corpse while I cast a cleansing spell. Spreads throughout the grove. First the plants, then the animals, and now even some druids have been afflicted. corrupted shrub. Burn it with cleansing fire after I cast my spell.
We are the spirit of the grove. We are the evergrowth, and this druid seeks to help, while another has unbalanced the true way. Aid us, mortal, before the nature that sustains this grove collapses.
How disconcerting. The evergrowth hasn't spoken in generations. Pardon that display. I've never been forcibly taken over by a spirit of nature before. I wasn't sure if the corruption was connected to the evergrowth, but now we know. And we know a druid is somehow involved. That troubles me. As I understand it, this grove was deemed sacred by the early druids, but it was also out of balance. They shaped Ifra's laws into a spirit and gave that spirit dominion over the grove. It recognized that I was trying to help it, and reached out. Yes. But is that druid acting out of malice or ignorance? Either way, if the evergrowth succumbs, then the corruption will increase and spread out of control. We must take this news to the Circle Elders. Meet me in our village. Our village lies at the center of the grove. Once we get there, I will tell the Archdruid and the other elders what we learned. Not much to tell. Archdruid Agathy oversees our community here. A number of the village elders serve as her advisors and help train the younger aspirants and initiates in the true way. I'll introduce you to them once we get to the village. Archdruid, elders, this outsider helped me. And the Evergrowth, it spoke through me.
The spirit of the grove? It hasn't manifested like that in many generations. Are you sure?
Druid Audrine has never given us reason to doubt her observations. Tell us, child, what did the spirit say?
It warned us that nature was out of balance. That a druid was responsible for this trouble.
Out of balance? That explains the corruption. But to blame a druid, I cannot accept that without proof.
Then we will find that proof. Friend, meet me at the Circle's ritual site.
Young Audrine makes a bold proclamation. While I believe the spirit of this grove spoke through her, I find it hard to imagine that one of our druids could be responsible for unbalancing nature. That goes against everything we believe. Mostly what you would expect. I oversee the druids that care for this grove, and help train the novices in the true way. Elders Karik and Warrain advise me on matters related to my work. I have the utmost faith in young Audrine. What I do not trust is the word of a capricious nature spirit. Go with Audrine. Get us proof that a druid is responsible for the corruption. Then we will take every action necessary to solve the problem.
I've tended this grove for nearly 50 years, and the Evergrowth has never spoken to me. Well, not directly at any rate.
Nature's spirits can be capricious, dangerous. The Evergrowth is no exception. Tread carefully, stranger. And don't allow young Audrine to toss around accusations she can't confirm. When the first Druids of Stonelore discovered this sacred grove, the place had no spirit to nurture and protect it. So they prayed to Ifrei, and shaped his will to call forth the Evergrowth. They bound it to the grove to preserve its balance. If you look at it from a certain perspective, I suppose so. It was required until the spirit bonded with the land. And once that occurred, there was no reason to eliminate the bindings. But if the Evergrowth suffers, so does the grove.
Meet me at the ritual circle on top of the rise that overlooks the village. We can talk there. Over here, my friend. The Circle Elders cannot accept that one of our own may be responsible for this disaster. And I could hear the doubt in their voices concerning the Evergrowth. We need to prove that one of our circle has caused this unbalance. Help me investigate. Search the village for any signs that a druid is involved in the corruption. Look in the huts. Ask my fellow druids. Someone or something here will lead us to the source of the corruption. It has to. We'll wait and see if it communicates with us again. If not, I have an idea. But let us try to find the druid responsible for this situation first. I want to determine if this was an accident or a deliberate and reckless act. There's Druid Milo. He has the eyes of an eagle. If anyone around here saw anything, it would be him.
Good gathering, stranger. I do not recognize you, but I know Druid Audrine very well. What may I do for you this day? Nothing specific, I'm afraid. Just that the corrupted animals have made foraging in the grove dangerous. Oh, this might interest you. I felt a disturbance emanate from the wards in the Undergrove recently. Like a surge of power went through them. The island's volcanic vents create all sorts of underground spaces. The large cavern beneath us is the Undergrove. No one's allowed down there, not without the Archdruid's permission. The wards have something to do with the spirit of the grove. Yes, the Evergrowth. I'm surprised you know that ancient designation. I believe the wards reinforce the spirit's connection to the grove, but I'm not an expert on that. I can sense them, though. I have an affinity for such things.
My time is precious.
The Undergrove? No one but the Archdruid ever goes down there.
I see that Druid Audrine has brought us a visitor. What can I do for you today, traveler? As a matter of fact, I noticed animals in the grove suffering from an affliction. I mentioned it to Archdruid Agathe, and she said she would look into it.
When I spoke to the Archdruid, it seemed like that was the first she heard of the corruption in the grove.
This is taking longer than I'd planned.
A ritual? That's proof that a druid caused this problem. Look, there's a mistake in the second line. They wrote remove instead of restore. ritual fetish. It reeks of the same corruption spreading through the grove. I wonder who it belongs to. I think we have everything we need to convince the Archdruid. Let's review what we discovered. Definitely a druidic ritual fetish. I use such accoutrement when conducting my own rituals. But this one bears the taint that afflicts the grove. This fetish must have been used in the ritual that released the corruption. Whoever scrawled this did so in haste. They made an obvious mistake in the middle verse. It should say restore, but the author wrote down remove. That alone would have disastrous effects when the ritual was performed. Someone or something disturbed the wards in the Undergrove, probably when the ritual was performed. And it appears the Archdruid knew about the corruption before I mentioned it, but she acted like she knew nothing. I don't know all the details, but from what I've been taught, the Evergrowth resides in the Undergrove. The wards connect it to the grove, but also bind it. We need to talk to the Archdruid. She's usually in the Northern Grove this time of day. I'll meet you in the northern part of the grove.